Hey everyone, it's Celeste, founder of Celestial University, and today I'm going to talk to you about the ways of a loud woman. 15 basset hounds surrounded me that warm June morning, and I was in my happy place at a basset hound meetup. You see, every month my friend Shauna and I travel around to area dog parks and we host meetups just for basset hounds. Now, if you've never been to a basset hound meetup, here's what I want you to imagine. I want you to imagine about 20 basset hounds playing together. So that means 20 long noses, 40 long ears, and 80 very short legs, all running, chasing, and barking at each other. And there is a lot of sniffing and even more slobber and even more dog poop. And I have to promise you, it's like heaven on earth. I have a basset hound named Trixie, and she is super active, especially for her breed. She loves to play with other dogs, and she especially loves to play with her half-brother, Warren. Warren and Trixie have a very close bond, and if there was ever like a WWE competition for basset hounds, these two would be the stars. They love to hurdle over each other, take each other down, fake bite each other's necks, and they emit the most unusual sounds for domesticated animals. When people see them for the first time playing together, they sort of look at them and wonder, as in, I wonder if we should separate these two dogs. But you shouldn't, because they're having the time of their lives. Now, I will admit that Trixie is a bit crazy. And while her brother enjoys a good wrestling match, many other dogs do not. And that's one of the reasons why I take Trixie to these meetups, because I want her to learn appropriate socialization skills. If a dog is not ready for a wrestling match, that dog will let the other dog know. And those are the things I want Trixie to learn. Now, with that said, when dogs come to the dog park, they're there to play, they're ready to rumble. And if a spat occurs, it usually happens because a human is involved. And that's where I go with my story. During this particular meetup, a man was entering the dog park, and he had with him a very anxious dog. And you could tell she was anxious because her tail was in between her legs and she had this submissive look on her face. So basset hounds are typically a friendly breed, so when they see a dog entering a dog park, they tend to rush the gate like a welcoming committee. And Shauna and I could see that this particular dog was very scared. So we pulled the basset hounds away so that she and her human could enter the park. And they did. And I really didn't think much more about it until a couple of minutes later. I hear a man hollering at the top of his lungs. And I look around and I see it's the same man who just came in with the anxious dog. No biting, he's exclaiming, and he's looking at this pack of basset hounds that is around his dog. And my dog Trixie was in that pack. So Shauna and I hightailed it over there to get the basset hounds away from his dog. You could see the anger seething from this guy's face. I mean, like smoke was coming out of his ears. His eyes were on fire. And as he saw us approach, here's what he said. Whoever dog this is, I'm going to kick it in its motherfucking head. I was stunned. He was pointing to my dog Trixie. So I scooped her up and I brought her to the front of the park, processing what was just happening. My friend Shelly met me there, and she took Trixie in her arms as I was thinking, oh my God, did this guy just threaten to kick my basset hound in the head? What kind of person does this? Now, if I was in my loud woman wits, I would have turned right back around and told that guy off. Because frankly, if you threaten to hurt a dog, you are pond scum to me. However, because I was scared, I had my polite woman wits in full effect. And you probably know what this is too. This is when a guy gets angry and because you want to diffuse the situation, you become enormously polite and submissive. This is a tool I learned from years in an abusive relationship, and it is my knee-jerk reaction whenever a guy is upset. So what do? I walk back to the man and I apologize. Now, I'm here to tell you, I didn't do anything wrong. I certainly did not need to apologize, but I had learned through years of conditioning that if you want to diffuse a situation, you apologize. Then right after that, I began explaining that my dog was harmless, that she was a puppy, that she just liked to have fun, over and over again, sort of explaining that everything was okay. Now, my apologies and my explanation must have worked because the guy started to calm down. He even offered an explanation that his dog had been bitten at the same dog park before and that he was just overly cautious. Now, when I look back at this situation, I am filled with regret because this is not how a loud woman should react. This is how a woman who has been silenced reacts. This jerk just threatened to kick my sweet dog in the head, and I'm walking over to this guy like I did something wrong, all in an attempt to calm him down. That's not how you do it. My smile and my soothing voice are quick deployed tools that I call upon when I am scared by a man. In previous situations, when I've been scared by a guy, I have used these tools to escape the situation unscathed. But if I could redo this situation, I would tell this guy that he was a jerk. It was unacceptable for him to yell at my dog and threaten to hurt her, period. Now, thankfully, one of us had her loud woman wits about her, and that was my friend Shelly. As this guy and I walk back to the front of the park, Shelly and Shauna are there. And once again, the man went into an explanation about why he was angry. And he no sooner put the period at the end of his sentence when Shelly looked at him dead in the eye and said, "That's no reason to be hostile." No quiver in her voice, no hesitation, no apology. He paused for a moment and I thought, oh, he's going to apologize. But no, instead he announced his departure, taking his still anxious dog with him. I am so grateful that Shelly had this unapologetic, loud woman response to this guy, because that's how you do it. That's how she ensured that this guy would leave the dog park knowing his behavior was unacceptable. But there's something else that Shelly did. She stepped into the gap left by a woman who couldn't muster her loud woman wits at that time. She spoke up when I could not. And she did so without explanation or without apology, and she certainly did not worry about what this guy thought. She took up the space she needed to let this guy know that he was being a jerk. And that's how you do it as a loud woman. Now, I share this story because it's the perfect illustration of how long-held beliefs about women's behavior do not serve us. Ever since we were young girls, we were taught to be polite, which means that we follow direction, we be quiet, we sit still, and we don't argue. But let's face it, what constitute good manners for women and for girls are outdated, especially if you compare them to the expectations for males. And it's stopping us as women from living our life to the fullest. And this affects us as entrepreneurs and as women in our homes and communities. So as Glennon Doyle would say, let's rip up that manner memo and write a new one. And if I was in charge of writing up that new memo for women's manners, there are 5 things I would have on it. The first thing would be to stop apologizing. So many times women say, I'm sorry in situations that do not require an actual apology, like when you are late to a meeting or you accidentally bump into somebody. In all these situations, you are apologizing and they don't warrant an apology, because we are taught as women to navigate situations where we may have made someone unhappy, and to say I'm sorry sort of diffuses that situation. I see this most commonly in grocery stores of all places. Grocery store aisles tend to be pretty crowded, just enough to get 2 carts going side by side, right? And often what I will see is there's a woman at her cart and a guy at the cart, and they're coming in opposite directions. And in order for them to pass each other, someone's going to have to move his or her cart over. And 9 times out of the 10, it's going to be the woman who moves her cart over. And as the guy passes, she'll say, I'm sorry. There's no need to apologize in that situation. It's not your fault that the aisles are crowded or that somebody's coming down the aisle the same time as you. Now, listen, if you want the guy to go first, that's fine, but say hello or maybe make a joke about the crowded aisle, but don't apologize. There's no need to apologize in that situation. When you say sorry needlessly, you are giving up your power. As loud women, we need to stay in our power. Yes, apologize when you hurt someone physically or mentally, or when you make a true blue mistake. But making people wait, trying to navigate a crowded grocery store aisle, tolerating what a man says to your dog, all of these do not warrant apologies. So loud woman, stop apologizing. The second thing I'd have on that memo is to stop explaining. You've probably been in the situation where a friend calls and says, hey, you want to go out for dinner tonight? And you've already decided you're staying in. You want to go to the couch and watch some Netflix. You're definitely not in the mood to go out. So you launch into this lengthy explanation about why you can't go out. Well, you had a terrible week at the office. You need to shave your legs, blah, blah, blah. And about 7 sentences later, you finally say, no, I can't go, but thank you for inviting me. Loud woman, stop explaining. Get comfortable with saying yes or no. Get comfortable with 5-word explanations if you must offer one. Something like, I have other plans tonight. As long as you are at peace with your decision, that's enough. We don't like to ruffle feathers as women. It's what we've been taught to do, right? We've been taught to be people pleasers. And we certainly don't want someone to be mad at us, and we don't want to hurt people's feelings. So that's why we explain. And sometimes we use lies and half-truths to soften that blow. This means we are concocting a story to cover our shame. And wouldn't it just be simpler to say yes or no and then move on? Here's the thing, that explaining is expected from women. Think about how a guy turns down a dinner invite. Thanks, man, I'm going to stay home tonight. And boom, he's done. He's headed over to the couch to enjoy some Netflix. No explanations. But here's the thing. He won't get much pushback either, right? Why is that? Because people are not going to challenge a guy about his decision. He made it, he gave his answer, and it's accepted. Women get follow-up questions. Why are you staying home? Are you okay? Shouldn't you leave the house? I mean, no wonder we're offering up half-baked explanations. We know the questions are coming. The only way to stop follow-up questions is to stop explaining. I'm going to say that again. The only way to stop follow-up questions is to stop explaining. Take a page from a guy's book and tell your decision without explanation. If you get follow-up questions, don't answer them. Eventually, you'll train your family and friends to accept your decision without further drilling. The third thing I'd have on that memo is to not tolerate being interrupted. Now, back this summer, Attorney General William Barr had to testify at a House Judiciary Committee about his department's response to Black Lives Matter's protest. And during this hearing, Representative Pramila Jayapal began her questioning. And after Mr. Barr attempted to interrupt her, she said, "Excuse me, Mr. Barr, this is my time and I control it." And this was a declaration that resonated for so many women because we can remember all the times a man has interrupted us. Yes, loud women, it is our time and we control it. Whenever we are engaged in discussion, it could be around the kitchen table, it could be around a conference room table, we are often interrupted as women. And there are a lot of reasons why someone might interrupt you, and often the reasons are not malicious. Someone just gets excited, they're super passionate, and they open their mouths. It happens. But many times the interruptions are malicious. You are being interrupted because someone wants you to be quiet. You're being too loud, too right, too something. And it's irrelevant that you haven't finished your thought because the interrupter, in the simplest of terms, wants you to shut up. And loud women, we don't tolerate that bullshit. So how do you stop being interrupted? This is where the rub occurs. In order for you to stop being interrupted, you have to abandon those good girl manners. Interrupting someone who is interrupting you goes against our societal training because it feels rude, even though the initial interruption was rude too. You got to push through that good girl manners and probably say quite loudly, "I wasn't finished. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. This is my time and I control it." The fourth thing I would have on that memo is to show emotion. Oh my goodness, how many times we've heard that a woman can't be in a leadership position because she's too emotional. Now, we all know this is hogwash, but it comes up time and again. For example, back in 2016, when Hillary Clinton was running for president, people would call her mean, angry, vengeful. Interestingly enough, her opponent, Donald Trump, when he was called similar words, somehow was considered a compliment. See the double standard here? Emotions show that we are human, capable of experiencing joy, happiness, sadness, anger, passion, and all these emotions make us better leaders. They certainly make us better teachers, politicians, entrepreneurs, scientists, pastors, physicians, and most certainly would make us better police officers. Let's talk about anger for a second. There's nothing more sinful than an angry woman, right? How many times have you seen a media report or social media post defiling a woman because she expressed anger? We see this everywhere. Look at the first Women's March that happened all around the world in 2016. How many people made rude comments about those marches? How many politicians wrote those marches off as just a bunch of angry women? Look what happened when Greta Thunberg won Times Person of the Year in 2019. President Trump said, Greta must work on her anger management problem. Then go to a good old-fashioned movie with a friend. Chill, Greta, chill. Greta is angry because the planet she is living on is wasting away thanks to bad human decisions. Why shouldn't she be angry? Here's the thing, anger creates results, especially at a policy and cultural level. Anger is a window that shows us what needs to be fixed, and there's nothing wrong with being angry. What's wrong is that we are uncomfortable when women are the angry ones. The fifth thing I'd have on that memo is to stick up for yourself. You remember my dog park story, right? What I regret most is that I fell back on those good girl manners, and I didn't stick up for myself or for my dog. I relied on a long-held survival instinct that told me to be scared and run instead of being scared and right. We often do not stick up for ourselves because we are scared to do so. We are also people pleasers and do not want to upset someone even if that person upset us. And sometimes we cling to the belief that we should pick our battles. Here's the thing, when you don't stick up for yourself, you are telling the world that you are okay with being shit on. Is that what you want? I hope not, because you deserve to feel safe, secure, assured, and you are worthy. When someone encroaches on any of these feelings, you have a right to open your mouth and stick up for yourself. Even if it means being rude, even if it means abandoning those good girl manners, even if that means you upset someone. And when a woman can't do this, you as a loud woman must fill in the gap, just like my friend Shelly did. You open your mouth and you stick up for her. This is how you show your worth. Ladies, it's time to get louder. You can do this. I am rooting for you, always.